Hey guys, I'm back and I finally have some commentary on The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. The Bluest Eye was the January read in my Toni Morrison reading project. And it was actually a book that I read at the end of November, beginning of December, and had planned to review so many times. I filmed so many videos trying to review this book, and I failed every time, and I feel like I'm going to fail this time, but I'm going to post something because I promised something before the end of the month, and the end of the month is here. So I just want to say I'm really happy that I finally read Toni Morrison, and I'm so sad that it took me to be in my 50s before I did. This is a beautiful, beautiful book, literally. You can see its beautiful spine. It's a beautiful book. It's a beautiful story. It's a terrible story. It crushed me. This book crushed me. It tortured me. It also made me think about so many things, and I think that's what really great books do. They tell a story, and they also make you think and make you examine yourself. In the beginning of the book, Toni Morrison quotes from the Dick and Jane series. Anybody who's of a certain age and grew up in the U.S. will remember the Fun with Dick and Jane series. I grew up learning how to read from the Dick and Jane series, and they read something like this. Let's see. Here's the house. It is green and white. It has a red door. It is very pretty. Here's the family. Mother, father, Dick, and Jane live in the green and white house. They are very happy. See Jane? She has a red dress. She wants to play. Who will play with Jane? And it goes on in that kind of sing-songy fashion. Dick and Jane are a little white boy and a little white girl, and their parents are the perfect kind of parents, and they have the little cat and the little dog, and they live in the perfect house, and they wear perfect clothes, and they never have a hair out of place. And they really, I guess, represented the ideal family. I know myself, learning how to read from those books, they never resonated with me because I didn't have a family that looked like that. My father was married and had 6 kids. My mother had been married before and had 2, and they got divorced and then got married and had me. I was in a kind of Brady Bunch kind of family before it was kind of like in to be Brady Bunch family. And we were definitely out of the norm in our neighborhood. Very large family with 9 children, a mixed family from different marriages. My parents had been divorced, which was not so common when I was growing up. So I really related to the fact that Toni Morrison was taking that sort of ideal that somebody had decided was kind of what the ideal American family looked like, and she is going to absolutely blow it up, smash it to pieces in this book, and that is exactly what she does, because life is not Fun with Dick and Jane, and most families don't look like this, and the families in this book aren't anything like that either. The story revolves around a little girl named Piccola, breedlove. It's early 1940s in a small town in Ohio. Piccola is a little black girl with brown eyes who prays to God every night that her eyes will become blue, because in the world that Piccola lives in, the children with blue eyes, whether they're white or black, are the children that have greater status. They're prettier. They're made to feel so. They're more popular. They're given more attention. They're given more love. And that's really what Piccola wants. She wants love, and she wants to feel wanted. And so praying for blue eyes is really just a symbol of her praying to feel loved. Piccola is a victim. She is a victim of something so horrible. It's hard to think about. It's hard to read about it. It's only a few pages, but it's very, very painful to read, and yet very powerful. She doesn't really have a voice. She feels almost invisible, and people make her feel that way. Throughout the book, she's referred to as ugly, and she feels like she's ugly. And so her story is really told through two of her little friends, Frida and Claudia, two sassy little girls who also wish they had blue eyes, but they also understand that that's really messed up, that people with lighter skin and lighter eyes get more attention. They're already awakening to that, and they're telling us Piccola's story of what happened to her. In the book, Piccola's mother and father are easily seen as monstrous, especially Piccola's father, but even her mother, Pauline. She works for a white family. She takes care of a little white girl with little blonde hair and blue eyes, who she obviously loves and cares about more than she does her own daughter. And she doesn't protect her own daughter from her very abusive husband, who is a monster. At the same time, Ms. Morrison shows us that people are not just monsters. They are monsters that have a story themselves. It's like I always say, you know, somebody who's a serial killer isn't born a serial killer. A little baby, when you're rocking them in your arms, isn't somebody you're picturing murdering somebody someday. They're a beautiful little child. And something happens to those children, and at some point, whatever that thing is or whatever those things are, create what they become. And they have a role in it, so they're responsible. But I think that Toni Morrison does a fantastic job telling us who these monsters are around Piccola, but also giving us context. And that's tough because it's so easy to make people, characters, villains, and other characters heroes. And she doesn't let us do that because there's a lot of ambiguity. And wow, it's difficult. I mean, it literally kind of gives me a knot in my stomach when I think about this book. And yet I know that I'll continue to reread it. You should read the book. It's really powerful. It's poetic. The characters are richly drawn. They're given context. They're given understanding. It's the story of the little girl. It's the story of the people in the town. There's all kinds of characters, which I guess add a bit of levity to the situation because it is a very dark and twisted story. There's 3 whores that live above Piccola and her family that are characters for sure. There's different townspeople that are funny and quirky that give the book a bit of lightness, because if not for those characters, I just think you'd be sucked down a tunnel so deep and dark you wouldn't find your way out. So I think that Toni Morrison has a very deft hand when it comes to pulling you down. She's taking you down, and then she realizes she needs to give you a little bit of air under your wings so you can get up a little higher in the tunnel that she's brought you down and get a little more air before she takes you down again. So it's a roller coaster ride, and it's brilliant. What else can I say? It's a book about a much bigger issue than a little girl that's been abused and who prays for blue eyes. It's about people who have been pushed down and subjugated and made to feel ugly and made to feel less than, so that they begin to hate themselves. It's about racial self-loathing. There's a lot of that in this book. There's a lot of people in this book who are hating themselves because they don't look a certain way. And there's a lot of them hating even each other. If there's somebody whose skin's a little lighter or whose eyes are a little lighter, they want to get close to them and they kind of want to push them down because they hate them too at the same time. And so it's a very, very powerful issue that she raises here. And 1970, this book was published. This was right around the time, as I'm recalling, that the whole Black is Beautiful movement started. And she's picking away at this idea of racial self-loathing. She's picking at that scab, and she's opening it for everyone to see. This is a book that everyone needs to read. It's a book that somebody besides myself can review so much better. I'm so twisted up in knots over this book that it's hard for me to articulate, and I apologize that I couldn't do a better job, but trust me, please just trust me. Read the book. It's not long. It won't take you that long to read it, and if you get 100 pages in and you hate it, you can stop, but please just give it a try. Everyone should read it. It's that powerful. So, that's it for The Bluest Eye. February, we're reading Sula. There's 3 or 4 other booktubers that are joining me. I'll have a video up in the next couple of weeks with my review, and I'll also link to the other people if their reviews are done. If they're not, then I'll just link to their channel because they'll be coming. Anyway, join us for the Toni Morrison reading project. Bluest Eye was January, Sula February, and we'll go on from there. Read it. Thanks. Bye, everybody.